Welcome back to Luther Sewell's Woven in Time by Dugan. Um, you may be confused, but I'm Luther and Dugan, and this is Dwight, my brother, back for another episode and some of his stories. Uh, so I'm going to turn it over to him and see if we can enjoy some of his stories. So
I'm going to take off my Granddaddy Johnson's hat. It's not his hat, but it's the kind he wore. Actually, my Granddaddy Sewell wore hats sometimes.
yeah,
In the fall of 1963, I began my education at Jesse Wharton Elementary School on Pisgah Church Road, just west of Church Street in Greensboro, North Carolina. It no longer is there. After I left, they destroyed it because I think they just wanted to preserve its sanctity. After watching my older siblings catch a bus and go to school and tell me about all their fun, I was ready. Papa, not Mama, carried me to school to start the first day. I was in Miss Granger's class. Hers was the first door on the right as you entered the newest annex through the green double doors at the south entrance. I quickly noticed two things. First, all the parents bringing their first graders that day, besides mine, were women. Secondly, they were all much younger than my parents. Some of the kids were not even attended by parents. Many of the children, and it seemed all the girls, were crying. Daddy introduced me to the teacher, patted me on the back, and strode out. I was fine. This was high adventure, and it was baffling why some of these children were clinging to their young mothers. Finally, the mothers got out of the room and we could start class. I had a new leather book satchel with a notebook inside and a pencil box. I was no novice. I had observed my older brothers and sisters. I was ready. Miss Granger called the roll. There was Randy Crum, Randy Petty, Michael Lucas, Charles Summers, Roy Casey, Ronnie Grimes, and on and on. The girls were there too. There was Diane Brown, Kathy Hodges, Kathy Crowder, Donna Moore, Donna Macemore, Donna Rumley, Sherry Snoffer, Diane Tilley, etc., etc. Below one girl's chair, none of the ones I mentioned, I'm not going to call her name, we'll call her Kathy to preserve her anonymity. Below her chair that morning, a pool of water was forming. When we graduated 12 years later, I watched Kathy walk across that stage, and all I could think about was the first day of school when she wet her pants. Mama had given me a denim change purse with a zipper. Inside the purse, she had placed my lunch money, 25 cents. Our cafeteria was another annex to the main school building. Our class had to walk outside beneath a covered walkway and then along an uncovered walkway to reach the climbing cafeteria steps. We entered the large, high-ceilinged cafeteria. Light green and white tiles covered the floor, and a few high windows adorned the west wall. Walking through the lunch line and talking to my new classmates were two exciting elements of this event that would become a daily rite for the next 12 years. After lunch, the class walked down those high steps and halted in the bright sunshine. I was the second person from the end of the line, and evidently we were not executing a straight line to suit Mrs. Granger. She stopped the line, briskly walked back to where I was, and proceeded to chastise me for talking in line. Mrs. Granger even grabbed me by my left arm and jerked me into line. Well, I thought that the day had been fantastic until now. This woman was inserting some discipline for which I did not much care. When she returned to the front of the line, I told Randy Petty, the boy behind me, that woman pinched my blood vessel. If anybody asks you, tell them I went home. When our line passed a row of thorny bushes, I simply rolled under the bush, a technique I'd learned from watching Wagon Train on TV, and waited for the class to enter the building. Next, I got up and I crept alongside the building, bending beneath the windows. I was so stealthy. Then, crawling in the side ditch across the front of the yard of the school, I headed home. The day was warm, and my house just over a mile away, but this was my neck of the woods, and I had no concerns about getting home. I walked to the intersection of Pisgah Church Road and Church Street. A stray dog began to walk toward me until I threw a rock and hit him on the short hop. The dog yelped and ran into Bill Fields' parking lot. The warm sun felt good on my face. Birds played in the yards that lined Church Street, and passing dogs greeted me. Some people were in their yards, but no one took notice of the round-faced 5-year-old boy. I belonged here. This was my world. There was Sam Swafford's house next to Mrs. Andrews' place, and there was the Hatleys and Def Setzers. A sudden breeze descended from the old trees in Mrs. McNeely's yard, which felt good on the warm day. Walking down the steep hill on Denny Road, I passed the pond at the bottom of the hill, across just below Mrs. Moore's house, and just below where the Herbins, Preacher Herbin, lived. Up past Bascom Brown's house
Which
on the left.
Mr. Herbin was also our uncle's father.
Yeah, he was some Ken. It was hard to get away from Ken in that area. The Hilliards were on the left. Miss Hilliard, she was a very nice old lady. Mr. Hilliard was still alive too at this time. And the folks were on the right. I got to Denny Road, or got to Church, Mizell Road, and I began walking up my road. I felt as though I was the essence of cool, remembering how the cool guys on 77 Sunset Strip hooked their shirts in their fingers and thumb, and I threw it over my shoulder. I knew my next move. In the warm sun, I removed my plaid cotton shirt, tossed it over my shoulder, then casually and coolly I paraded in front of Uncle Herb's house. "Hey here, boy, where are you going?" he asked. "I'm quitting school. The teacher up yonder pinched my blood vessel." Uncle Herb smiled a devilish grin. "He'll let me go with you to tell your daddy." Uncle Herb chuckled and sought details of my brief encounter with education as we walked toward home. We found Mom and Daddy working in the backyard. "Hey, Fred, your boy's done quit school. They wouldn't treat him right." I looked at my dad and matter-of-factly said, "Yep, I quit. That woman pinched my blood vessel." Mom and Daddy listened to my story and then told me that I was going right back to school. Daddy ran him a glass of water from the well house and drank it. "That stuff's good. Get in the car, Dwight. You ain't quitting school. When the teacher tells you something, you're supposed to do it." We pulled out of the driveway as Uncle Herb bent in laughter. When Daddy walked me back into Miss Granger's class for the second time that day, the lights were out, my classmates were taking a nap. Mrs. Granger was surprised to see me with Daddy. She hadn't even missed me. On the second day of school, Papa pulled a blue Impala onto the gravel parking lot and dropped me off. School would not take up for another 15 minutes. The schoolyard was teeming with boys and girls. As I walked toward a group, a rock hit me in the shoulder. I turned to see Ronnie Grimes throw another rock at me. I shouted, "You better stop throwing rocks at me," as the missile whizzed by my head. "Or what?" returned Ronnie as he began an all-out barrage. I ran up the little knoll on which he stood and I tackled him. We rolled around in the damp grass and dirt for a few minutes. I lay on top of Ronnie when suddenly, whack! I felt my rear get very hot. It was at that moment that I met Mr. Snodderly, my principal. The wooden paddle that he carried had just been introduced to me. The relationship would be lengthy. Quickly, I began to realize that school was a new and different environment. I needed to adapt, to figure out this new world. On the third morning, I cautiously crossed the parking lot, glancing warily for Ronnie. I ran down to the playground where the children played. There were the older second graders playing there too. Kenny Sloan, Kirby Hunsucker, and Tommy Younger were throwing rocks off the hill onto soft grass and cattails below the playground. The drop was at least 30 feet to the cattails. These second graders appeared to be real men of the world, and I was anxious to impress them. Soon the conversation turned to what lay beneath the hill. Kenny said, "I bet there's water down there." "I bet Dwight won't jump down there to see," Kirby joined in. "Go on and jump, Dwight. I dare you." Well, I had to show these second graders that I was tough. I thought for a minute. Tommy laughed. "He ain't going to do it. He's chicken." "Oh, yeah? Just watch," I said as I took a running start and I leaped into the unknown. All too soon it was known. I landed with a thud in a muddy swamp. Worse yet, it was ankle deep in the school cesspool. I was ankle deep in the cesspool. My right knee was throbbing and bleeding. I climbed out of the gray, murky water and up the steep bank to the large group who had there assembled. The Johnson grass cut my hands as I clung to it and fell to the ground in the midst of my classmates. A teacher was there and soon pulled a piece of glass the size of a quarter from my knee. I still have the scar. She washed, disinfected, and wrapped the cut. No one thought to take me to the doctor. My new school pants were wet, dirty, and ripped at the knee. School was getting harder by the day. Thankfully, school got easier. I met Jeff Souther and Jimmy Oakley on the playground. I was in the first reading group. Mom had already showed me how to read, and my artwork was getting better by the day. When Mrs. Granger taught us the bunny hop, I hopped till exhaustion. Then I had a birthday party. My sixth grade birthday party was at home in my barnyard, and uh, Pop and Mom and Dugan had built a fire pit down there on which to roast weenies and marshmallows. Papa mixed, Mama mixed the powdered juice and mix for Pillsbury in a large clear glass pitchers with something like Kool-Aid and carried them down to the picnic table. My classmates played. Mrs. Granger's little girl fell into the fire pit and got burnt. Dugan pulled her out. Mama doctored her. I was adapting and flourishing at Jessie Wharton. Somehow, we were notified that Juanita, my older sister, had forwarded me a birthday present. However, we had to meet her girlfriend over behind the post office on Summit Avenue. We drove over in the morning before school and turned down Sullivan Street. The neighborhood was filled with asbestos-sided duplexes that appeared to be remnants from ORD. We found the address, ran up, and got my present. It was 2 pairs of corduroy pants with 2 matching Alton shirts. There was a green checkered shirt and a blue checkered shirt. The matching pants were lined with the same materials as the shirts, which showed when my cuffs were turned. Also, for my 6th birthday, we received word that I had a cake awaiting me at the Northeast Shopping Center bakery. The cake was decorated with cowboys. I really thought I was a stuff. Then came the rain in October. The rain was a good excuse for the kids to wear their new rain apparel. Jeff had a bright yellow rain jacket with metal clasps. His mother worked at Sears Catalog on Lawndale Avenue. He also wore black leather rubber boots over his shoes. I was intrigued by these never before seen clothes. We ran beneath the covered walkway as the heavy gray clouds poured buckets on our heads. The day remained dark and rainy. As the clock read 10:30, it was time for recess, but the bad weather would keep us in. Foreboding gray clouds made the cool day like night. Mrs. Granger set a table along by the windows, which were opened. She then handed us each a cube of clay wrapped in cellophane. Seated across from Charles Summers, I was making a dinosaur leg when Charles kicked me in the shin. I balled that dinosaur leg of mine, into a baseball, and I flung it with all ferocity. toward Charles. Charles ducked, and the clay went outside. Whew! Now this was a problem. I watched as the other children worked the clay. I knew that this was not going to end well. Finally, the moment came when Miss Granger called for the clay. I passed up my new friend's clay and hoped Mrs. Granger wouldn't count. She did. I was caught. Mrs. Granger commanded, "Dwight, get yourself out the door and bring me the clay." Shamed, I ran out into the rain and brought back the clay. When I returned, Mrs. Melton, the teacher from next door, met me at the door. I handed over the clay. Mrs. Melton, a handsome bottled platinum blonde, sneered at me and with apparent satisfaction said, "Bend over and grab your ankles." She whacked me 3 times and each time lifted me off my feet. I felt my face flush red and my legs quivered. I wanted to cry but would not. Mr. Snodderly's paddlings were no match for this young Miss Melton. November brought more rain and cool mornings, yet the afternoons were fairly warm. Mama always packed me a snack. Always it was either an apple or a pack of raisins. I pleaded, "Mama, why can't I have a candy bar like some of the other kids?" "Baby doll, it's getting cold, and the raisins will give you iron to fight off the flu." "You don't know," this is Mama talking, "you don't know him, but I went to school with a boy named Sam McGee. He had a little sister, and she wouldn't eat right, was always making fun of the weather. It would come a cold rain, and she'd be out barefooted playing in the mud holes. She would never eat nothing besides sweets. Well, one winter she came down with a croup. It wasn't no time, and she had died. And don't you think it can't happen to you? It sure Bud can, but not if I have anything to do with it." I continued to plead, "But Mama, it ain't so cold in the mornings, and it ain't a bit cold at home, at school. Don't make me wear union suits. None of the other boys wear 'em. Baby, that's because those other mamas don't love their young'uns like I love you," she said as she lovingly squeezed me close. I would not relent. "Mama, I ain't going to wear 'em. They're hot." She pushed me away from her swiftly and held me tight by my shoulders. Her mercurial blue eyes flashed fire as she thrust her face in mine. "Dwight, if I hear tell you taking them union suits off, I'll beat the blood out of you. Now, you just go ahead. I dare you. You ain't had no beating yet." I ate the raisins and I wore the union suits until the month of May. By the spring of 4th grade, I would go to the restroom before school and strip off the union suits and put them on again before I came home. By the Neener mailed me packages from Coca-Cola with Coca-Cola bottles in them that year. My sister worked for an advertising agency in Atlanta called McCann Erickson. The company and Coke worked together. My sister had met Anita Bryant. Anita Bryant was Miss America and a singer. I brought this fact to the attention of my teacher, who was our janitor. They smiled, and the janitor said patronizingly, "Don't they have some imaginations?" I was frustrated and angry that these dunderheads didn't believe me. In November, we sang "Over the River and Through the Woods to Grandmother's House We Go. The horse knows the sleigh way to carry the sleigh to through the white and drifty snow." We made place settings for our Thanksgiving tables. Sherry Snoffer and I had 11 nameplates for the table. This was by far the most of any of the children. Then one day the teacher entered the room with the janitor. The janitor had tears on her face, and Miss Granger was somber. That day I learned a new word: assassination. Our president, John F. Kennedy, while on a trip to Dallas, had been shot and killed. It was a Friday, and everyone felt the foreboding of the moment. The next week, our class sat cross-legged in the floor of the hall, and they rolled in televisions on these big green rolling carts. We sat in silence and awe as a horse-drawn caisson drew President Kennedy's coffin down Pennsylvania Avenue. A saddled white horse with boots facing the rear in the stirrups pranced in the procession. Although we were quite young, the hall was suffused with sadness. My Aunt Laverne and Cousin Jeanette lived 3602 Mizell Road. They were Catholic, and their house was filled with mementos and pictures of JFK.
Okay.
That's all. I hope you enjoyed it.
Dwight, thank you again, and we look forward to doing some more. I hope, um, if this trip lasts long enough. But in the meantime, everybody please like, subscribe, ring the bell, make comments. I love the comments, and I normally answer most all the comments. So if you would, I'd appreciate it. But most of all, be pretty.